Mike Locksley should play two quarterbacks against Oregon.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And I'm also doing work over at InsideBlackandGold.net. So make sure you guys go to InsideBlackandGold.net for all your latest Terps news. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if it's a $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. I think that Mike Locksley should play both quarterbacks against Oregon. I know we have a bye week here, Maryland football does, and we're not going to we don't play anyone this weekend, and we have a little bit of time until we play Oregon. But honestly, I think that the Terps should play both QBs against Oregon. I think the way this season has gone, I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think I've a couple of different reasons why I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't think Billy Edwards has been bad enough to get benched. I just don't. When you really dig into the numbers, when you really dig into our team, I don't think he's been bad enough to say, here we go, Billy. Like, you got to come out the game. You haven't been good enough. You need to get better. You haven't thrown the ball well enough. You just haven't done enough as a quarterback. I don't think that's the deal with Billy Edwards. I think he has been a really solid quarterback for a lot of the year. He's been up and down for sure, and he's definitely cooled down. But I do think when we really look at his year overall, I do think you have to say, when you look at his numbers in terms of the Big Ten compared to other Big Ten quarterbacks, he's had a rather decent year this year while being under a lot of pressure. He's second in the conference in passing yards. Even his completion percentage is pretty high, seventh in the conference. In terms of touchdowns, he's tied for six. Like, he's doing a lot of good things. And my point about Billy Edwards is I don't think he's been bad enough to say, yeah, we just got to bench you. It's obvious you just haven't played good at all. He's had some really good moments. We saw a couple weeks ago against USC, we saw him put together a really good performance against USC to bring us back in a game where we were trailing, where he threw for 373 and got other guys involved and figured out how to win that game. But at the end of the day, he also hasn't been amazing. He struggled in a lot of games. His worst game was against Minnesota, where he had the pick six, 2 interceptions, and he looked good. That was the game where MJ Morris came in. Didn't look great against Northwestern either, had the interception, and he's definitely kind of slowed down. I think he's only really had one good game in the last 4 games. I was going to say last 4 weeks, but we did have a bye week mixed into there. So it's not like he's playing bad enough for me to feel like he should be benched, but I also don't feel like he's played good enough for me to be like, yeah, he should definitely be the starter. But I also think a reason why Billy Edwards should continue to play and get snaps against Oregon is because we have done nothing to help him out. We have done nothing. Our offense, our football team has not done a lot to help Billy Edwards out, and we're making it hard on him. Number one, the offensive line is terrible, and that's really most of it. The offensive line has been really bad this year, and that pretty much sums up how hard it is, how we haven't really helped him, because that leads to a poor rushing attack. We're definitely in the bottom in terms of rushing stats in the Big Ten. When you look at it, our leading rusher, Roman Hemby, is 20th in the Big Ten in rushing. So that clearly isn't good enough at all. So I think when you look at our rushing stats, we're pretty good. When you look at it team for team, we're near the bottom right now in terms of rushing yards. Northwestern's below us, Minnesota, UCLA. So we're a bottom 4 team in terms of rushing the football, so we haven't helped him in terms of rushing. And our receivers have been the only bright spot on the game on our team, and so we have good receivers and stuff, but our offensive line hasn't been able to pass protect, hasn't been able to run protect. So it's like, what is he supposed to do? Sure, Billy Edwards holds onto the ball too long. Sure, there's other things that happen that are on him, but I think it goes to my point where I'm like, you want to play, or he hasn't been bad enough, but he also hasn't been good enough, but he also isn't, he's doing a good amount with not having a lot. If he had a better offense around him, I think we'd be looking at Billy Edwards as a really good player right now. If he had a better, it really just comes down to the offensive line. And so I think that in terms of going into this Oregon game, I'm kind of stuck in the middle. And I really came up with this, and I was like, both guys should play in this game. And then when you head over to MJ Morris, which is another big dynamic, he played too well in that short stint that he got against Minnesota, where he went, it was like 7 of 8 for over 100 yards. Like, he played too well for me to continue for 122 yards, 7 of 8 for 122 yards, 2 touchdowns. He played too well for him to continue to sit on the bench, and for us to bring him in and entire year and him not get an opportunity to play in some of these games, I think would just be wrong of us. It just doesn't make sense. If Billy Edwards was killing it, I would say something different. But I think that when you look at this Oregon game, I know it might not be best for either one playing both of them, but I think when you look at it for the last 3 games of the season, I think you can draw from, if both guys play, you're going to be able to draw a conclusion that, yeah, this guy's our guy, depending on how they play against Oregon, depending on how they look. I think that's kind of the situation that it should be. I think both guys should play. I also think it's unfair to just throw one guy in there and say, yeah, go play well against Oregon, when we can't pass protect against Minnesota or Northwestern. But yeah, go into Eugene, go into Oregon. Good luck. Play at a high level. And I think that's why you got to play both of them, because I think if you play one guy the whole game, I think that's just messed up. He's gonna get hit probably a lot. He's probably going to struggle a good amount. And so I think when you look at the game against Oregon, I'm like, I think you should play both guys, to be completely honest. I think both guys should get the opportunity to play. And then I think the rest of the season, that will bring me more clarity for who the starter should be. But I just think that you can't bring in MJ Morris and then us not be a good football team, but he also doesn't get the opportunity. That doesn't make sense. With how good he looked last week against Minnesota, I think he deserves an opportunity to play, an opportunity to go at it. And I think a lot of the fans would agree with that. And I think that we're at a point in Oregon, if it was like a different game where it's a must-win game, this Oregon game, I can't even call it a must-win game. A game where you're going to be underdogs by what? 20, 28 points, something like that. Probably 4 touchdowns, 3 touchdown underdogs. I can't say, yeah, this is a must-win. If it was a must-win, I would be like, you should play one quarterback because that's the best thing to go. But I think for the rest of the season, we got to figure out who are guys going to be in the last 3 weeks after the Oregon game who give us the best opportunity to reach a bowl game, which is still a possibility if we beat Rutgers and Iowa, 2 teams that are solid, especially Iowa. But I don't think it's like mission impossible to be able to beat both of those guys. So I think playing both quarterbacks in this situation could lead us to see against a really good Oregon team. If, let's say, MJ Morris flashes, but it doesn't all come together against Oregon, we could look at it and be like, he showed some flashes against Oregon. We should give him the opportunity to play. So I think that when I look at it, I kind of see it like that. I think both guys should play. I think that'll benefit our football team. Or it could be the other way around, where it's like Billy Edwards plays at decently or good against Oregon, and MJ Morris looks like he's still behind on the offense. He still hasn't quite figured it out. And we're like, okay, Billy is the guy. But I just don't think that – I know it's late in the year, but I just don't think that you can just go into this game and say either one deserves to start. So I think that you should play both of them and see what happens. I feel like at this point in the season, to be completely honest, we don't have much to lose. I know we're still fighting for a bowl game, but in a game against Oregon, we have nothing to lose. We're expected to get crushed And I think I want to see both guys play. And I think Mike Loxley reasonably would probably want to see both players play and see what they look like. So I do think that both quarterbacks should play against Oregon. Maryland basketball's front court is going to be the best in the Big Ten and is going to lead the Terps this year. Talk about that after this ad from 5 Hour Energy. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby. It's the way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or agonizing second overtimes, which is why they've created the Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel, the energy shot made just for super fans like us. The fans who are first in the parking lot and who are last to leave. We see you. You know what else gave me a bit of Terps fan feel this week? The moment when we had a huge play when MJ Morris came into the game and made a big play and had 2 touchdowns despite him coming off the bench. And I thought that was really cool opportunity for MJ Morris, for Maryland to get it crushed. And I found excitement in watching him come in and make the most of his opportunity. So 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. What's your fan feel this week? Whatever it is, do it with 5 Hour Energy. Available on 5hourenergy.com, shipped nationwide. Let's switch gears to Maryland basketball. I think that the team goes as far as this front court, and I also think I have 2 takes in here. I think that our team is going to be run through the front court, run through the 4 and the 5, but I also think that we have one of the best front courts in the entire nation in college basketball for Maryland basketball. I think that our front court is truly amazing. I think when you look at this Maryland team, it's much more balanced in this year, and I'm really excited to watch it Monday. It's Monday, right? Monday against Manhattan. I'm pretty sure I just looked at it. I don't have the best memory, but I'm pretty sure we play Manhattan. Yeah, Monday, November 4th, 7 p.m. It snuck up on us. I don't know about you guys, but the basketball season snuck up on us. It kind of just came out of nowhere, but that's what kind of happens. I feel like football season starts in the first 8-9 weeks of the football season of college and the NFL kind of start flying by, and before you know it, you're like, oh snap, it's the NBA season starts, and it's like, oh wait, we're here for college basketball. So I think Maryland plays Manhattan on Monday, which I think is going to be a game we should win by a lot. But I think that I want to see the new look team. I want to see some of these young guys. I want to see some of these older guys. And I think that when you look at the Terp team this year, it's going to be run through the front court. Like I was saying before, we're more balanced all throughout, and everywhere is going to help. Our guards, we're more of a guard and forward team, I feel like this year. We kind of have guards and bigs. I want to be like our guards, our small forwards, our shooting guard, but we more just have guards and bigs. But I think that our team is run. I'm almost certain that our team is going to be run through the front court. And a lot of people are asking, how does Derek Queen and Julian Reese, how do they play together? How does that look? Will that look right? Does that work? None of them are perimeter dominant. Does that work in this day and age of college basketball? And I say yes. You have 2 guys that I think that when we look at our team, I think every time down the court, we should probably hit one of them on the post. And I think that the teams are going to be keyed in on those guys. And I think you're going to get some easy doubles. And if we can shoot the ball properly this year and not shoot the ball like a middle school basketball team, I swear the percentage we shot was like I felt like I was watching like a high school basketball kids, like a high school JV team chuck up threes last year. the way that we shot the ball. If we can shoot the ball at a college level and we brought in guys, I think that almost not every single possession, but almost every single possession should either go through Julian Reese or Derek Queen. Julian Reese last year, I think that this year is going to be interesting with Julian Reese because I'm thinking about his stats as a player. Like last year, he was our second best player. And I'm not saying he's not one of our better guys this year. Like he for sure is. But I think when I look at his stats last year, he nearly averaged 14 points, nearly averaged 10 rebounds. I think that this year, we forget how dominant he can be sometimes. And I think he's a guy that we can give so many paint touches, and he's going to be really good. And if they don't double him, he's going to score the ball, especially against some of these upcoming opponents like no offense to Manhattan, but Manhattan, Mount St. Mary's, Florida A&M, Marquette, they might have some good defenders. But against those first couple, you dump the ball to Julian Reese, you let him go to work, and the same exact thing that happens with Derek Queen. Like you just get those guys touches because they're so talented. Derek Queen's a 5-star, and you look at these ratings, people are rating like all the players in college basketballs, and they'll rank the like big man, and like Julian Reese and Derek Queen usually come up right near each other because they're both going to be dominant type of guys. And I think that when you look at the team, this is the strength of the team. Don't get cute. Don't try and get cute, Kevin Willard. We're going to post up. We're going to be I think we're a little bit of an older team this year in terms of an older style of play. I mean, when you think about college basketball, you do get some of these paint-dominant guys. Obviously, think of Zach Edey last year where you're just going to throw it into them, and it's going to be almost impossible to stop. I don't think Reese or Queen are quite that, but I think they're going to be really hard to stop down low if you don't double. And when you double in college basketball, creates a lot of opportunities, and those guys are tall enough, good enough passers, have high enough IQs to make plays when teams are doubling. So I do think that it's going to be run through those two guys. I think we don't need to be getting cute. It's not last year where Jameer Young was our best offense. We don't have to get cute this year. Throw it down to those guys. You don't even necessarily need to run some crazy sets. I know it's not all going to be just throw it down to Derek Queen, but you can do some things to get them post looks and get them closer to the rim. But I do think that this year's team is run through those two guys. Jacoby Selton, Deshaun, Rodney, Malachi, Chance, whoever else is playing for us this year is going to get some really easy shots because those guys are going to create a lot of problems down low, a lot of problems. And they're going to get fouled a lot. They're going to go to the free throw line a lot. And if they're hitting free throws, we're going to win games because those guys are just too dominant. I think about the one thing that concerns me is, let's say Julian Reese has it down low. What does Derek Queen do? I think Derek Queen's going to be fine. I think he can space the floor enough. And then same goes with Julian Reese. I think Julian Reese is more of a concern, but you can also have one guy at one block and while the other guy's at the other block, and they have to cover it. Or else it's going to be an easy lob in there. So I think it's going to be interesting, but I do think that those two guys are going to be the leaders of our team. And I think that we're going to run it through those two guys because it's one of the best duos you get in all of college basketball. Here is my preseason Maryland Basketball Player Awards. I'm going to give away defensive, an offensive, and an overall MVP, and an unsung hero for Maryland basketball this year. I'm going to say who I think wins each award after this ad from FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sports app gives you everything you need to place your live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-plays, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Let's get into some player awards for Maryland basketball this upcoming year. Let's start with our defensive award, who I think preseason is our best defender. And I kind of go back and forth with this because I have a couple different guys that I think, really two in particular, that I think can be really high level players. But I think when I look at the stats from last year, I do think that Julian Reese will be our defensive MVP this year for Maryland basketball. I think what he is as a shot blocker and how he alters shots and what he did last year as a shot blocker is a really high level stuff. And I expect him to do it again. He nearly averaged 2 blocks a game. And people forget he also averaged 1 steal a game. And so I think when I look at him defensively and his length and his help, and what, excuse me, I don't know what that was, but what he can do from the help side, what he can do in different situations, I think Julian Reese is going to be our defensive anchor in the back end. I think he's really tough to finish over with his length, with his size, with his athleticism. And I think for us to be a really good defensive end or a really good defensive team, like we were last year for a lot of the year, we were able to handle people defensively on the Kempong. Back to looking at the Kempong stuff when basketball season starts, but we were like near top of the country for a while for defensive efficiency stats. And I think a big reason was because of Julian Reese as a shot blocker. It makes it really hard to finish at the rim when that guy's lurking all over the place. And now you have another big in there, Derek Queen, I'm still kind of unsure about him defensively, but I do think that he's going to be able to block some shots as well. But I think Julian Reese is by far our best shot blocker. I also thought about Deshaun Harris-Smith because I know he can be a really high-level defender, and he's a guy I guess I have the hiccups all of a sudden. Great timing while I'm recording this, but I guess Deshaun Harris-Smith, I think, to me, could be a guy that guards the best player on the other team at the guard spot. So I thought about him as well. And there's going to be some other good defenders. Jordan Geronimo, I don't think he's a big enough role to be that for me, but I think he's a really good defender coming off the bench as well. And we'll see how some of these other guys are defensively. I'm not exactly sure yet. The offensive MVP, I think, to me, is going to be Jacoby Gillespie. I think his all-around game, the clips I've seen him on Instagram, is he doesn't have a weakness. This kid can get to the paint. He can finish both hands. He can shoot the 3 ball. He can create. He's a playmaker, and I think he's going to be a big key this year. And I think we give him the keys to the offense. He's going to be driving the boat. He's going to be driving the car, and he's going to have to make a lot of decisions, and it's going to be a lot of pick and roll with Reese and Queen. It's going to be a lot of that, and that's going to create a lot of opportunities for him to get a lot of assists. Also kick out to Selton Miguel and Rodney Rice when he's in, and hopefully Deshaun Harris-Smith if his shots improve. But I do think he's going to be our offensive MVP. I think he's going to average a good amount of points, and he's going to average a lot of assists this year. And he's going to shoot a good percentage, hopefully like he did last year at Belmont. But I do think he'll end up being our offensive MVP for the year for Maryland basketball. And then I go over to overall MVP. I really do believe it's Derek Queen. I think he's our best player. I do. And a lot of you guys may be like, it's way too early, but you got to start seeing some of these things before they happen. You got to start listening to what people are saying when they head over to Maryland basketball camp and when they go to practice and what you hear about the scrimmages and all these different things to really start getting a grasp about how good some of these freshmen look, how good some of these new guys look. And it's pretty clear to me that it sounds like Derek Queen's already our best player. That's what it sounds like me when I hear people talk about it, when I hear people talking about Derek Queen and what he can do. It sounds like he's our best player, which I think when you bring in a guy that's top 10 in the nation, a 5-star, has played at Mount Vernon for a couple of years and has grown up playing really high-level basketball, and he's a 5-star and everybody in the country wanted him, I think it's okay to say he's our best player. And it might take a second for Terp fans to realize that, but wait till the games start. I think you guys are going to see that he's our best guy right now. So I think that's going to be a really cool opportunity. But that's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked On Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you for listening to Locked On Terps.